when prayer feels like a task instead of a relationship. There are seasons when prayer stops feeling like breathing and starts feeling like homework. You still pray. You still say the right words. You still show up. But something inside feels mechanical, structured, pressured, as if God has become an assignment instead of a father. And the quiet guilt begins whispering, if you loved him, this wouldn't feel so hard. Today, we're going deeper psychologically, theologically, and into the hidden rooms of the heart, because this struggle is far more common than most believers admit. 1. The psychology of performance-based prayer. When prayer becomes a task, it often reveals something subtle. We have shifted from relationship to performance. From a psychological perspective, humans naturally gravitate toward measurable systems. We like checklists, streaks, goals, progress markers. But relationships cannot survive on metrics. When our spiritual life slowly turns into minutes logged, chapters completed, days without missing devotion, we unintentionally train our brain to associate prayer with achievement instead of attachment. Over time, your nervous system may begin to treat prayer like an obligation, and obligations activate stress, not intimacy. This is especially true for high-responsibility personalities, those who are disciplined, committed, and sincere in their faith. The very strengths that help you grow spiritually can quietly turn into pressure. You don't lose faith. You lose softness. And prayer becomes something you manage instead of something you enter. 2. The theology of grace versus earning. Theologically, this tension runs deep. Christianity is built on grace, not wages, not spiritual productivity, grace. Yet many believers subconsciously operate as if God's closeness must be maintained through effort. We don't say it out loud, but inside we fear. If I don't pray enough, he'll be distant. If I skip today, I'll disappoint him. If I don't feel anything, something must be wrong with me. But the gospel tells a radically different story. God does not respond to you because you performed correctly. He responds because you are his. The cross was not a payment plan. It was a declaration. You are already wanted. When prayer turns into a task, it often signals that we've drifted from grace back into earning. And earning is exhausting. 3. Emotional numbness is not spiritual failure. There's another layer we must address: emotional fatigue. Sometimes prayer feels dry, not because you are far from God, but because your soul is tired. Chronic stress, burnout, unresolved grief, disappointment with unanswered prayers. These shape how we experience spiritual practices. If you've been carrying hidden disappointment, if prayers felt ignored, if outcomes broke your trust, your heart may unconsciously protect itself by disengaging. Numbness can be a defense mechanism. And here's the important truth: God is not offended by your numbness. He understands trauma chemistry. He designed your nervous system. Silence from your heart does not equal rejection from his. 4. When structure replaces presence. Disciplines are good. Structure is healthy. But structure is meant to support presence, not replace it. Imagine a married couple who schedules date nights every week. That's beautiful. But if they show up only to check a box and stare at their phones, the structure becomes hollow. Prayer routines are like that. If your prayer life has become scripted but distant, it may not require more effort. It may require more honesty. Instead of, "Lord, thank you for this day," what if you began with, "I don't feel close to you right now"? That sentence is not rebellion. It is intimacy. God is not looking for polished devotion. He desires real connection. 5. The difference between discipline and desire. Here's where depth matters. Discipline sustains faith through dry seasons. Desire fuels it during vibrant seasons. Both are necessary, but discipline without desire feels heavy. Desire without discipline feels unstable. When prayer feels like a task, don't immediately abandon discipline. Instead, ask, has my heart been heard? Have I processed disappointment? Am I praying to connect or to prove something? Sometimes the solution is not longer prayers. It's slower prayers. Sit in silence. Breathe. Allow your body to calm. Prayer is not only words spoken upward. It is presence shared. 6. Rebuilding prayer as relationship. If prayer feels mechanical right now, here are gentle steps, not rules, to rediscover relationship. 1. Reduce the pressure. Shorten your time. Remove expectations. 5 honest minutes can restore more intimacy than 30 forced ones. 2. Change the posture. Walk while praying. Journal instead of speaking. Lie down and simply whisper one sentence. 3. Name your resistance. Tell God directly. I feel like this is a task. Honesty restores oxygen to connection. 4. Separate God from your shame. Your struggle does not shock him. He already sees the hidden parts and stays. 5. Remember, presence over performance. Even if all you do is sit quietly and say nothing, you are not failing. You are being. 7. The deeper invitation. There's something profound here. Sometimes God allows prayer to feel empty, so we can discover that He was never dependent on our feelings. If your faith only survived when it felt warm, it would be fragile. But love that remains through dryness becomes mature. Not dramatic, not emotional, but rooted. And rooted faith is unshakable. 8. A quiet question. What if this season is not punishment, but purification? Not distance, but invitation? What if God is gently dismantling your performance-driven spirituality so He can rebuild it on secure love? The shift from task to relationship often begins with surrendering the need to feel spiritual. You don't have to impress God. You don't have to sustain Him with your effort. You are already held. Closing reflection. If prayer has felt heavy lately, you are not alone. Many strong believers walk through this hidden valley. Few talk about it, but dryness does not mean departure. Silence does not mean absence. Sometimes it simply means your soul is learning to love without emotional reward. And that kind of love runs deep. Gentle call to action. Fu Hope Fu Nui. If this spoke to a quiet place in your heart, consider staying with this journey. On this channel, we don't chase emotional hype. We explore faith with depth, honesty, and healing. If you're walking through a season where God feels distant, but you refuse to give up, subscribe and continue with us. There are more conversations ahead about burnout, intimacy with God, and rebuilding faith from the inside out. And if you feel comfortable, share in the comments. Has prayer ever felt like a task for you? What helped you reconnect? You never know who might read your story and feel less alone. Until next time, breathe, slow down, and remember, relationship is not a checklist, it is a presence.